Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News. It is February 25th, 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here this evening with Dr. Claudia Albers, our Planet X physicist. Dr. Albers, how are you this evening?
I'm very well. Thank you, Scott. And how are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Ladies and gentlemen, I know a lot of you have seen all of the information floating around Facebook and also on YouTube about all of this crazy weather that we've been having. A good portion of the Midwest, from Texas all the way up to Canada, undergoing some pretty tragic flooding. There are some flooding situations also up in Michigan and many other states. I know we have problems with it here in the Pittsburgh area. Over the last couple of days, we've had, I think, over a dozen landslides. Just recently, I believe it was earlier today, a landslide right outside of the city literally took out a house. On its way down, just completely leveled the house. I have some video clips from the local news station, and we've also undergone some flooding in different areas. And, folks, I was talking about this 2 weeks ago, and, I mentioned that, it's time for us to be prepared, start paying very close attention to these weather systems. And we're going to get started first by talking a little bit about this weather. I'm going to show you some things that I've been observing over the last couple of days, things I've been paying very close attention to. And then we're going to get into some information that Dr. Albers and I discovered earlier this morning. And it's a little weird. We don't have any absolute concrete evidence, but we're going to show you what we were looking at this morning, and it pertains to some recent activity that we found on the stereo core 2 imaging and also on the Secchi coronagraph. And Dr. Albers, that one Secchi coronagraph, that's a core 2 image, isn't it?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Yeah, the secondary images, I decided to start going backwards when I was looking at these images. I was going backwards in time, and it led me all the way back to December 20th. And that's where things really started to get weird. And again, folks, we're theorizing a little bit on this upcoming subject matter. And we'd like all of your input because, that's what we do, folks. That's what science is. We are doing our best to create some theories, gain some evidence, and prove our point. And science isn't easy. It's definitely a difficult subject matter. But I'm going to go ahead real quick. I want to share my screen with you guys, and I want to show you a few things that I've been looking into. Just give me 1 second. And up on your screen right now, hold on 1 second. Give me 1 second, folks. I'm just pulling up the live chat here real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there we go. Okay, folks, what we're looking at here, this was for today. This was a global shot from the GFS weather satellite systems. And, a lot of people have been wondering what's going on with this weather. Why is this happening? And, I've literally, over the last couple of days, I don't even know how many emails that I have answered pertaining to this specific situation. About 2 weeks ago and last week, I went over this information showing everybody what was about to happen. And this was referring all the way back to that stratospheric split that meteorologists and climatologists were talking about. And that that stratospheric split, as they named it, it was talking about splitting the weather system in the North Pole in half, sending a blast of cold air down over one side of the Earth and another cold system down over the United States. So Russia, China, and Europe, and this side over here, the United States. The reason why this is happening is there's a massive amount of warm air, hot air, that is rushing up through this area, wrapping around, and it's being pushed right up along the east side of Greenland and Scandinavia in the very far North Atlantic. As you can see by the temperature colors, now this is in Celsius. I'm not good at converting Celsius to Fahrenheit, but I know the color temperatures. So when you're looking at the very extreme reds, that's very hot, 80, 90 degrees, close to 100 if it's real dark burgundy. But getting up into here, we're looking at temperatures in the 60s, the 50s, the 40s, and up in here, you're looking at temperatures that are above freezing. Above freezing. The last I looked earlier today, these temperatures were 34, 35 degrees at the very top of the world, which is absolutely insane. We're talking about the North Pole, the Arctic region, with temperatures above freezing.
Mhm.
But whenever you get into these temperatures here in the very magenta pink color, you're looking at well below zero, 20 degrees below zero, 30 degrees below zero. But this air has been constantly pushing up. Now, it was, if you watch my cursor, it was only pushing up about right here last week. And then it has made a further push straight through the top of our planet. This warm air has literally split the cold air, the polar air, in half. And it has sent all of this polar air down into parts of Europe and all through parts of Canada and into the United States. But in the meantime, a jet stream is sucking up all of this warm air and it's wrapping it up right into our North Pole. And a lot of people would say, oh, well, you know, what's so dangerous about that? Well, you're seeing it, ladies and gentlemen, the massive amount of flooding through different parts of the United States. And we have our flooding right here. Now, we were supposed to go on air earlier this afternoon, but we've been having torrential downpours of rain, almost like tropical rainstorms here in the Pittsburgh area. Rivers overflowing, flooding everywhere, accidents all over the place, landslides everywhere. We had a power outage. So we just got power restored about an hour ago. So here we are. So I'm going to go ahead and click over to the next photograph here. Dr. Albers, you want to explain this 2-meter anomaly?
Yes, well, that shows temperature above normal. So what we have here is, and it's 2 meters above the ground. So what we have at the North Pole is a wild departure from normal temperature. And we see a 5.8 degree above normal. And this is greater than anywhere else in the world. As you can see, the Northern Hemisphere only has a temperature of above 1.1 degree above normal. So the North Pole is experiencing a huge temperature increase. And it's never been, it's not expected at all. And, you know, I have written about this. I believe that the Earth is actually experiencing a type of crustal displacement where the North Pole is no longer the geographic location that we call the North Pole. It's probably being affected by the ocean itself, because I think the Earth's oceans are warming up. So
I believe they are too, because I've been looking at ocean temperatures around the world, and they truly are heating up.
yes.
I mean, naturally all around the equator region, but definitely further north and further south of the equator. And
Yes.
we can get into that later on, because I have some information on that.
You see, because the North Pole is just ocean, what we have is that ocean warming up, going right into that region. And that's why the North Pole is possibly warming up much more than the South Pole. The Antarctic, as you can see, is only 0.5 degrees above normal. And for us to have temperatures above freezing at a time of the year when the North Pole is supposed to still be in winter and not getting any sunlight is totally unexpected. It's supposed to be impossible, Scott.
Oh, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, right here in the Pittsburgh area for the last 10 days, we had a temperature last week where we hit 80 degrees in the middle of February in the Pittsburgh region. Our temperatures have not dropped below 40, 45 degrees. We have daytime highs 58, 60, 62. All of the ski resorts, they're in the southern mountains, the Laurel Highlands, about 60, 70 miles south of us. A tremendous amount of snow melt. Ski resorts shutting down when they should be in full swing this time of year. Talked to good friends of mine up in the Buffalo, New York area. Now, you would consider Buffalo, if any of you really know the United States here, in February, Buffalo's white. It's covered in snow. The whole Northeast is usually covered in snow. There is no snow. Why? Because it all melted. Our brothers and sisters north of us, right over the border in Canada, in Toronto, Ottawa, and Ontario, absolutely vicious flooding and massive ice flows, just destroying everything. Earlier today, I was, reviewing some information. I had to use my cell phone because of the power outage, but people riding jet skis up and down the streets in different parts of Michigan. Last week, when we had some local flooding in the city of Pittsburgh, right in the city on the underpasses of the highway system that runs around the city, we have three rivers that converge, or two rivers that converge in downtown Pittsburgh to form the Ohio River, which flows all the way down to the Mississippi. There were people in kayaks, and kayaks and GoPros, and the same things occurring up in Michigan. I just shared some information on my Facebook page showing this. This flooding is a very, very serious situation. Very, very early this morning, areas along the Ohio River, Nashville, Memphis, Kentucky, Arkansas, all kinds of flooding, alarms going off, the sirens going off, because this flooding started to occur in the middle of the night. And that would definitely surprise some people and trap them.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're looking at here is this jet stream flow. Mm-hmm. And they're now calling this the Mayan Express. And I guess, coming from Mexico, and the word Mayan, they name it whatever they want. When it's coming from the Pacific region, they call it the Pineapple Express. Why don't we just call it what it is? Climate chaos.
Scott, I just wanted to mention something with the previous diagram that I think is important. Can we just go back?
There you go.
Okay, so do you see where Russia is, where it's blue there? Do you see that?
Yeah.
And the North Pole is red. That shows that the temperature at the North Pole has increased. If you look down at the United States, there isn't much blue or anything. Most of the blue has moved towards Russia. That's actually the position where the magnetic north has moved towards.
Very correct. Good point.
this shows that basically the North Pole, it's not just a magnetic displacement. There is a crustal displacement occurring. So the actual geographic North Pole is moving in that direction, has moved in that direction. So now the United States is actually moved towards the real equator. That's what it looks like, even from this.
Yeah, we're definitely going through some very, very strange movements as far as our weather. And, you know, ladies and gentlemen, listen to me very carefully. None of this is going to change for the better. You know, we're going to be moving within the next month. We're going to be moving into the spring solstice, March 2021. At that point in time, naturally, the Earth will start to change its tilt on its axis. You know, we'll be getting more daylight. That worries me because I feel, and Dr. Albers feels the same way, we don't have solid, concrete, 100% proof or evidence that the Earth is actually tilting a little bit more than its normal 23.5 degrees. But based on everything that we're seeing, and, you know, there are people also charting the moon, the rising of the moon. I was watching one video that was put out by Mr. MBB333, where one man was comparing moonrise times and his actual observations, and the moon was rising late, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes late. You know, how is that even possible? And the only reason I'm talking about this now is because these observations that we're making around the world, this information counts. It's very, very important because each and every one of you, you're another set of eyes and ears around the world. And listen, folks, you already know from what you're seeing that the purge of social media is happening. You know, I coined that phrase the other day during my live stream, the purging of social media, and it has literally caught hold. And there are, you know, other YouTube channels and other creators. They're using this phrase that I have coined, the purge of social media. I mean, they're literally deleting YouTube accounts, Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts. Hundreds of people are going down each and every day, and it's probably going to get worse. They're trying to cover up a lot of information. I've warned all of you before that eventually this is going to happen because the power of the internet, the power of social media, the way we share information, it's too strong. We have that power. And eventually, folks, they're going to take that power away. So the more knowledge that we acquire now, the better off we're going to be. So that is definitely occurring. Don't be surprised if some YouTube channels that you follow literally disappear overnight. Facebook groups, they're being terminated by the dozens. Twitter accounts, again, being terminated by the thousands. It is what it is. This is the world that we live in now. And me and Dr. Albers, we've discussed this matter before. This is the biggest cover-up in world history ever. I mean, this beats it all. And there's a lot to cover up, folks. You know, and I would probably say 99% of people in social or mainstream media, they don't know what's happening. You know, they're too stuck on this Donald Trump ordeal. Around the world, that's all they talk about. We have catastrophes occurring every minute of the day on this planet. Things that should be covered, but they're not. You know, earlier today, we had a magnitude 7.5, 7.6 in Papua New Guinea. I mean, that was devastating. I knew it was going to come. You know, I was talking about some of this information about 5 or 6 days ago when, you know, we had these large coronal holes facing the Earth. And then you have these idiots out there that claim that, you know, these coronal holes do not affect the Earth in the way of seismic activity. Well, they're dead wrong, folks. You know, we see these openings occur, and then bingo, a few days later, boom, we have these earthquakes occurring. And this 7.5, you know, Papua New Guinea, I mean, that was a pretty strong quake. But getting back to this weather situation, this is what we're looking at right now. This is for today, Sunday, February 25th. This is showing you the jet stream. The jet stream is completely out of control in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. That is going to create weather anomalies around the world. And, you know, you might as well say that coming up, there's not going to be any safe place on this planet where you're not going to experience some very severe weather situations. I mean, what was it? 2 weeks ago, we had a tornado touch down and wipe out a community south of me, Uniontown, Pennsylvania, which is a very historic a city. I mean, just devastating. And a tornado in the middle of February, we should be more worried about snowstorms than tornadoes and flooding. The flooding is actually going to get worse. I do believe that we will have some dry spells here and there, but the ground is so saturated, so much ice melt that's going to be coming from the north, flowing all the way to the south. So it's going to be a matter of if and when, more like when. But you can see, if you follow my cursor, this huge swath of warm air that is being pulled by the jet stream right across this part of the United States. This is pulling all of that warm air straight up into this sector of the United States, mainly the central part of the U.S. and the East Coast. In turn, it's winding all of that warm air straight up here. Now, folks, if you look where my cursor is, this area is usually full of ice, but you can see the ice recession is pretty drastic. There's no ice here, nothing. These temperatures up here are in the low 40s and mid 30s as you get up, you know, close up here. You'll start to see even warmer temperatures, which was on the other slide, dead center at the top of the Earth. Now, this one here will give you a better view of what's occurring. This is all polar air right up through here, but you could see all of this warm air rushing straight up into the Arctic. If you look at the cross-section point right where my cursor is, right here, I mean, that would be considered the actual top of the Earth. And you would probably think, okay, that's got to be the coldest point on this planet. It ain't. It's not. It isn't. You know, so it's, you could definitely see the warm air moving up here, and the stratospheric split is continuing. I do believe that we will see more warm air pushing all the way through to the other side. And all that's going to do is push more of this polar air downward. And as we have more warm air moving upward, sections of Texas, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Indiana, Michigan, the entire Mississippi Valley, the entire Ohio Valley. It's going to be interesting, folks. It's going to be dangerous. We're showing on this slide right here for February 25th, the sea ice and snow cover. As I mentioned in the last slide, you can see very clearly that there's no ice there, folks. None. Zero. Now, there's a lot of cold air right here and moving down into the Pacific Northwest. But this area is melted completely. But I wanted to share all of that with you. Just a lot of people have been asking, why is this occurring or how is this occurring? Getting back to the earthquake that we were talking about in Papua New Guinea, I published this slide earlier this morning pointing out what was happening to the sun. This has been an ongoing saga for 2 years now, and it's actually getting worse. And just about each and every day now, we can guarantee that we're going to see some form of a coronal hole facing the Earth. And, just looking at this slide from earlier today, this is part of the SDO 48-hour loop. And you could see the coronal holes. And these were just passing Earth. All of this, all of these dark spots. This was facing Earth on the 23rd. Takes a couple of days for that energy to actually penetrate the Earth. And bingo, we have a pretty big earthquake. What happened in Papua New Guinea today? Magnitude 7.5. Dr. Albers, anything you want to add pertaining to this SDO image?
Yeah, well, we can see what's happening with the sun, that the corona is getting thinner and thinner, and basically the sun, as I said before, seems to be turning into one big coronal hole. And we know why that is, because these objects are connecting to the sun and creating these coronal holes. And through the coronal holes, we have fast-moving solar wind coming through towards the Earth, ionizing our ionosphere, and through that, creating these induced currents inside the Earth, which, of course, lead to earthquakes. So that's the connection. So the more coronal holes we have on the sun, the more earthquakes we are going to get on Earth.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have our hands full with the earthquake situation. No doubt about it. Real quick, I wanted to just do one thing here. Bear with me. I wanted to show you the clip from the west end of Pittsburgh. And this is just right outside the city, not even a quarter mile. Coming out of the city on the west end, you can see this massive landslide came down. You can see the house right there. It was completely leveled, and the landslide slid down right onto a main bypass right outside the city. If you look at the headlines in the Pittsburgh News, rain totals, risk of flooding, landslides remain through Monday. Record-setting rainfall leads to landslides across the area. Landslides continue to worsen. Ladies and gentlemen, over the course of the last couple of days, we have had some very serious landslides here. We've had landslides that are falling down onto very busy highways and byways around the city. Route 28, Route 60, Route 65, Route 66, Route 51, Route 28, Interstate 79, Interstate 70. We've had over a dozen landslides in 3 days. And over on the south side, an elderly lady woke up very early in the morning, and all she heard was this cracking and crunching at the back of her house. She lives in an area in the south side called the South Side Flats. And, there's kind of, bigger hills and stuff like that leading out of the main thoroughfare through the south side. A lot of people live up there. Well, her 20-foot by 20-foot deck, which sits up 20 feet off of the ground, disappeared over the hillside, falling 500 feet down below. All of the earth at the back of her house was completely gone. 40 feet from her back door to the edge disappeared. And she didn't want to leave her house, but, fire and rescue came, and they told her, listen, lady, you have to get out of here. This house is going to fall over the hillside. Mount Washington earlier this morning, a huge landslide. Mount Washington, I believe, is about 800 feet high, leading right out of the city. It actually overlooks the city of Pittsburgh. There's very trendy, 5-star restaurants that sit up there with a beautiful view of downtown Pittsburgh. Everything on Mount Washington right now is in jeopardy. A few days ago in Oregon, a landslide occurred, and it toppled over a rock onto a roadway the size of a large house. There are landslides and rock slides occurring everywhere. So again, folks, if you're traveling around, in your day-to-day, keep an eye on the weather. You never know what you're going to drive into. And it's just one of those situations where we all have to be very, very careful. You have to keep your eye on what's happening. And as you can see, a lot is happening. No doubt about that. But we're going to go ahead and get into what Dr. Albers and I were discussing earlier this morning. And I'm going to bring up some still shots. And I was checking some stereo imaging earlier this morning. And this was for February 23rd, 2018. And as I was watching some of this footage, I noticed this object right here. And it's very faint. I have video footage to show you also. But it seems that a lot of the video footage is becoming obscured. It seems maybe they're trying to hide something, with distorting the imaging. Because prior to this object showing up in the video footage, the coronagraph was clear. And then all of a sudden, this object shows up, and either the detectors went absolutely crazy, or the boys in blue got out their little Sharpie magic markers, and they started covering things up. But this object appeared right there, and it's very, very large compared to the size of the sun. The size of the sun would be the white circle. The black area would be the occulter, and that's just something in the imaging that blocks out the sun, so the camera systems can get a good view of CMEs, solar flares, things of that nature. But this object appeared. Doesn't look like much, does it? I'll zoom into it a little bit. And again, it doesn't look like much because it's so pixelated. You wouldn't think anything of it. But you know me, I start digging. And these are just a few frames. I'm looking at this. And again, it's very, very pixelated, really blurry. I converted the images over into some 4K, some higher definition. Didn't do any good. So I went and dug a little further. Try to utilize some filters. In this shot here, you can actually see that it's a perfect sphere. There's definitely something there. And I started to compare on solar system scope what planets might possibly be there. Could it be Venus? Could it be Mercury? All possibilities. But if it were Venus or Mercury, it would be a hell of a lot smaller. And, I don't know, for you guys that are viewing this on a cell phone, you might not be able to see this very clearly. If you guys are watching this on a computer, turn up the resolution on your YouTube player. and turn it up to, 720p or 1080p. But there's definitely an object here. And as far as identifying it as Mercury or Venus, Dr. Albers, what would you think based on the size and how close it is? And
well, first of all, if it was Venus, it would appear very bright. That's the first thing you have to consider. This object is obviously not bright like we would expect Venus to be, because a planet is supposed to look very bright in a chronograph image. So obviously that's the first thing we know. It's not bright like Venus is. And if it's not bright, then we cannot consider it the size of that little blob to be according to brightness. So it must be according to size. So then we can consider that object. First of all, it's not a planet, so it has to be something else. And we know what's there. We've been looking at these objects for so long. It must be one of these old stars that have come to the sun. And therefore, we know where it is as well. Plus, it seems to be getting covered by all this material that is in the sun's outer corona now and then. So I would say this object is actually a lot closer to the sun than Mercury would have been. Mercury would have been either in the background or way in front of the sun. So then we can compare its size to the sun, and we can see that this is a very large object, about the same size as Jupiter, perhaps.
Yeah, and it was moving in the video, which I'm going to bring up right now. This object is not moving this way. This object is moving towards the sun. So this is telling me that this object is actually making an orbit like this, not going behind the sun. It's actually coming from out here and going towards the sun. Now the video footage cuts off because this was from the 23rd and I ran it to today, to the 25th. So over the next couple of days, I'm going to be imaging this little object here, and we're going to find out exactly what it is. We're just forming a little bit of a hypothesis here, and we're trying to figure out what that object is because it's very, very suspicious. And when I bring up the footage from December 23rd, 2017 that just passed, we're going to view this, and you're going to see something really freaky. But I'm going to go ahead and bring up this video. And this is the video that I put together, and it's going to show you what we're talking about and what we've been looking at. And Doctor, if you want to go ahead and narrate through some of this, feel free. Now, you're going to actually see, this is the actual video footage. This object appears right here.
Yes, I see it there. Yeah, we see it definitely. It seems to be getting covered by all this material that is in the sun's corona. Also, this thing of the corona becoming darker and lighter is very strange. It's not supposed to happen either. But part of it is, I think, is part of the manipulation that they do with these images. I think the corona does get darker and lighter, but they've now placed it so that it happens regularly, so that people will think it's part of what happens with the chronograph. This is what they do. I've caught them do this many times. But we can definitely see that this cannot possibly be a planet. As you can see, it gets so faint sometimes that we can hardly see it. And this is to be expected because it is actually in the sun's corona, not the inner corona, the outer corona. It's getting covered with all this material that's accumulating in the corona that's been brought in by these stellar cores. They are bringing in a lot of material to the sun. When it goes smooth like that, that happens after they process it. When they process the image, then they blend everything so that the features that we can see at these times when it looks so dark and light and so.
Yeah, and you can see here how pixelated it is.
Yeah.
You can see that they've actually tried to blur this out.
Yeah, they make it pixelated on purpose so we cannot see things properly in the images before they get to do their processing. You see that once they do the processing, it looks much smoother, not as pixelated, but all the bright things, all the features are blended in. So basically, they're hiding everything.
But you know me, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I pick through this video footage and I examine it, and I examined this for hours and hours earlier this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're about to see, you're going to see some still images, and they're going to blow your mind, because what you're going to see without this pixelization in the still photographs, you're going to see a smaller sphere in front of a larger sphere, a much larger sphere that should not be there, but it is. And apparently, you know, it has probably some satellites, and I mean, you know, planetary satellites, not NASA satellites. And this is actually getting into the footage that we picked up from late December that just passed.
Mm-hmm.
This object cruising across the screen. Look at how large the sphere is. I'm going to stop it.
Yeah.
Now, this was said to be Mercury.
Again.
But look at the size of the sphere.
Yeah.
And this is zoomed in from one of the coronagraphs.
Yeah. So we can actually
filter here.
see that this is not a planet because it has a circular outline right around it, which actually indicates the actual size of the object. This is a spherical object, at least behind. There may be another object in front or several. It may even be a system because the other objects seem to be moving with respect to it. But it's definitely not Mercury.
No, it's entirely too large. And
yes,
I'm gonna go ahead and just stop this right now. And let me get out of this full screen and bring something up real quick. Okay, folks, check this out. This is actually to scale. Over here to the left, you see the sun. You see how massive it is. The sun is 865,000 miles. 865,000 miles in diameter. Little tiny Mercury is, I believe, 3,093 miles in diameter. Look at this little tiny little dot.
Yeah.
Compared to the size of the sun, and then reference the video that we just watched. So how can this little tiny little dot be the size of Jupiter?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, even if the sun was reflecting off of it, how could this little tiny dot that's less than 4,000 miles in diameter grow to the size of Jupiter?
Yeah, and you see, Scott, it's not about the size due to the brightness, because what we see is a spherical outline which cannot be produced by brightness at all. It actually shows the actual size of the object. It's not a bright outline. You can just barely see it. It actually indicates the size of an object.
Oh, yes, it does. And there's another object with it.
Definitely.
Cruising through the video, there is another small object. Now, we're looking back to December 20th, 2017, just 60 days ago. And what do we see cruising across the sky in this coronagraph? What NASA has labeled Mercury. Now, I'm going to stop it right here. Dr. Albers, How does the word Mercury, how does that get in the screen? How does that get in the video footage?
Well, what happens is we have these stellar cores going around backwards and forwards, and whatever object is in the right position, well,
What I
whatever
meant,
known
what I
planet
meant is how does the word Mercury appear in the video footage?
Oh, they have to add it, Scott.
They type it in, don't they?
They type it in, of course, and they type it in according to whatever planet it's supposed to be aligned with the position of that object.
No,
Because I've caught them so many times lying about the object. Cannot possibly be Venus, cannot possibly be Mercury. I've caught these objects in the HI images having these huge plasma loops, which is impossible for a planet to have. And here we seeing the outline of the object. It cannot possibly be Mercury.
Ladies and gentlemen, watch this very carefully. Do you see the size of this object?
Yeah.
So again, now, they want us to believe that Mercury, less than 4,000 miles in diameter, appears in this coronagraph looking that large. So watch very carefully. You're going to see it with your own eyes. There you go. They have it labeled as Mercury. And again, folks, they can type in whatever they want. Okay? They can put whatever word they want in there. It's just not something automatic. They type it in there. Mercury. Look at the size of this object. It's huge. It's massive. It's not less than 4,000 miles in diameter. That object is huge. I mean, if you go back, to the original, okay, there's what they have labeled as Mercury. But in actuality, folks, if you look at where my dot or my cursor is, that little tiny dot, that's what Mercury should look like, if that. Even if this object was closer to the satellite, to the spacecraft, how are you going to get a little tiny planet like Mercury to look that big? It would literally have to be very, very, very close to the spacecraft cameras. Now, as far as Mercury's orbit goes, I believe at its closest point, it's 44 million miles from the sun. At its furthest point, it's approximately 70 million miles away from the sun.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Albers, this spacecraft that's taking this video footage, you know a lot more about its positioning and its distance from the sun. So, you know, with your mathematics skills, where would this spacecraft be? How far away from the sun?
Well, it's the same distance from the sun as Earth.
So that's 93 million miles.
That's right. So there's no way that Mercury would look so large, even if it was on the same side as the spacecraft, because it's a huge distance still from Earth to Mercury. And no, that object looks like between 2 and 3 times the size of Jupiter, Scott. It's larger than Jupiter. There is no way that this can possibly be Mercury.
Now, what do you think that light source is? Because we've identified it as another object in front of and orbiting with this larger object that they have labeled as Mercury.
It seems that these objects either are moving around in groups, and this is possibly what is happening. They're attaching to each other and moving around, orbiting each other. Or it could be that they may have a certain part of the surface that's brighter than another. But it seems that, I think the strongest possibility we have here is that it's more than one object. these are actually small systems that are moving around our sun in the inner solar system.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Mm.
I mean, let's just look at it right here. This is a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
And I have some still photographs, folks, that I'm going to show you here very soon. And we're going to show you that this object that NASA has labeled as Mercury, and there's no way a little planet less than 4,000 miles in diameter is going to look that gigantic in this coronagraph. Now, there will be people that say, oh, it was closer to the camera, which would naturally increase its size. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to buy that. There is absolutely no way. When you're dealing with these distances of millions, tens of millions of miles, and you're dealing with the diameters and the size of our known planets, the math doesn't add up. What are you telling me? All of a sudden, Mercury morphed into this massive stellar object? No, doesn't happen. But what we are going to show you in the still photographs that we caught right from this coronagraph, you're going to see that this object has stripes on it, blue stripes, just like the blue stellar core that I captured back in May of 2016, or excuse me, 2017, and all of the other photographic evidence that we've captured through 2017 and this year already, clearly showing a large striped object that almost looks like Jupiter. And Jupiter is said to be what, Dr. Albers?
Pardon?
What is Jupiter said to be? A failed star.
Yeah, it is actually a small star.
Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and let this play through.
Yeah,
so
I've been writing about that it is actually a star. But you see, most of the time they say that Mercury looks so large because it's so bright in chronograph images. But then if Mercury is so bright, why does this object have a not so bright, perfectly circular outline around it? That means that its size is not due to brightness, but due to the actual size of the object.
Now, in these still photographs here, I'll show you better ones, but you're going to start to see a little bit of the striped outline. Here, we'll stop it right there. Oh, here we go. You can start to see the blue striped outline around this object. And what we've detected, folks, is this big bright spot right here. This big bright spot right here is a smaller object, and it's literally traveling with this larger object. Because as I was going through this footage earlier this morning, there was so much of it, it took me hours. But this smaller object, which you can't see, it's encompassed by this huge light source. It literally moves and it appears in different areas. So it's telling me that object is either reflecting light, emitting light, but it is following with this larger object. This larger object is clearly striped. It almost looks like Jupiter, but it's not Jupiter. Jupiter's nowhere to be found in any of these coronagraphs.
Well, there's no way that Jupiter would actually look so large either, because Jupiter is at the outer reaches of the solar system. So it would also look absolutely tiny in these chronograph images. This object has to be very close to the sun. We know the stellar cores are they in the inner solar system, very close to the sun.
Now, taking a look, I'm going to stop the video player here real quick, and I'll pull up the still photograph so we can zoom in a little further. But again, folks, the boys in blue at NASA labeled this Mercury, and they did it for a reason. because they just think the average person, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's Mercury passing by. They're not really going to put two and two and two together.
Mhm.
But you can see this object is striped,
Yes.
perfectly striped, top to bottom, all the way, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to let this piece of video footage go by. And I slowed it down so you can get a better view of it. Once again, viewing on your screen, you can see this object's clearly not Mercury.
Mm-hmm. No.
Here's a good shot of it right here.
Yes, you can clearly see that absolutely round outline on this object. It's huge.
Yeah, it's pretty massive.
It's absolutely huge.
This is just the beginning of the video playing again. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here, and we're going to get into some of these clearer photographs.
Mm-hmm.
And I cleared some of these photographs up from the Core 2 imaging. What we're looking at right now, this was detected 2 days ago on the Core 2 coronagraph. So we went from December 23rd to February 23rd. That's 60 days. Dr. Albers, how long does it take for Mercury to make one orbit around the sun?
88 days.
So we're missing 30 days.
Yeah.
So if that object was Mercury, folks, and we're only 60 days into Mercury's orbit, how can it be appearing again in this Core 2 image 30 days early? Now, taking into consideration that everything's in motion, we're moving around the sun, the sun's rotating, everything's moving, satellites, spacecraft, the whole 9 yards. But I've never seen Mercury appear like that twice. And then,
well, it does. It can be seen behind the sun, and then as it goes around in front of the sun, it's very hard because the stereo spacecraft to actually calculate exactly when we're supposed to see it or not. But the thing is, Scott, it cannot possibly be Mercury. Mercury would not look like this in a chronograph image. We've always been shown Mercury to be extremely bright. This is not bright. This is not Mercury. It's impossible.
Now, in this photograph, folks, again, this is from the 23rd, 2 days ago on the Stereo Core 2. This is what we were just looking at in the video that was so obscured that we couldn't see it because they must have done something either to blur it or, some interference came in into the detectors on the stereo spacecraft that caused the interference that does cause, the coronagraph to get a little sketchy. But as I cleared the photographs up and I started looking a little deeper, you can see that small object right here. And it's really not small. It's actually pretty damn big.
Yes.
But what is right behind it? Watch and train your eyes very carefully. Again, if you're looking at this on a cell phone, folks, it's going to be really hard for you to see. If you're looking at it on a computer monitor, let your eyes tune in to what I'm about to show you. You have the small sphere right here. And what's right behind it? A larger sphere.
Yeah.
And it's obscured a little bit. But again, folks, how are you going to get a perfect sphere? And I mean, I could see the edge all the way around it. This big behemoth, the big, larger object, that is what they were trying to hide. They could give a care less about the smaller object because they could identify it as Mercury or Venus. They can say whatever they want. The fact of the matter is, there's a big monster right there. And that is what they were obscuring. Look at that. It is very hard to see, I will admit. It does look sketchy, but it's there. Here's another image with the filter on it. Again, you can see the smaller object. You can see light reflecting off of it right there. And then there was the beginning of some discharge from the sun because this object is getting closer. It's moving this way towards the sun. It's not moving away. It's moving this way. It's orbiting around the sun. There's your big object, and there's a smaller one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not small by any means.
No.
It's pretty big. Here's going back to the 23rd of December. Again, they labeled this large object Mercury.
Yes.
But as we zoom in, I don't want to pixelate it too much, but you could already see these faint blue stripes.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Now, some will argue that those are what they call JPEG artifacts. That is a common debate rebuttal that, the troll babies use. Everything they say is either lens flare or JPEG artifact. But if you take a look at the photographs, they're pretty damn clear. They're high resolution. And if I zoom in, you can see how tight the pixels are. They're not real big square pixels. They're very, very small. So it's a higher resolution. And again, you can see the defined colors. Darker blue stripes here, lighter blue stripes here. Darker blue stripes here, lighter blue stripes here. What does it look like? Looks similar to Jupiter. What is Jupiter? Jupiter is a failed star. What do we have orbiting our sun? A failed star, an old stellar core. What we may consider to be a brown dwarf, we've labeled it Planet X. And, now we're really, really starting to get into the belief that, yes, there are multiple objects with this larger core. I was just waiting, to gain more evidence to come out and say, yes, there are probably more than one of these stellar cores out there, and they are wreaking havoc on the sun. There's no doubt about it. Jump into the next picture here. Now, I just added some contrast to take out the background color to darken it so we can get a little bit more definition to see more of this coloration. And this big bright spot right here, this is another object. This is definitely another object.
It's either another object or it's actually a hot spot on the stellar core itself. They do sometimes start emitting very bright light from one part of the surface, which doesn't envelop the whole surface. So that's a possibility as well, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, when we're comparing this to what we've just seen now, 60 days later, with two objects.
Yes.
This larger one and that smaller one.
Yeah.
And then, you see, even though I have taken out all of the background color, you see all of these little smaller objects.
Yes.
They're all around this main object here, the
That's
larger
right.
one.
And they still quite large. They at least Earth-sized. These small
they're big.
objects. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And here, again, I changed the background color so we can get a better view. And again, you can start to see the defined stripes, I'm not. I've never heard of Mercury having stripes.
No.
It's like a little dead planet, just a little
No,
rock.
of course not. No, Mercury, you wouldn't see any stripes on it. You would have to have an actual star for the stripes to be visible, like they would on Jupiter. Yeah, I mean, they would have to actually be emitting some radiation for them to be visible like this.
Now, here's a little bit of a clearer photograph, and this was about 2 hours later in its motion, and just a little bit clearer. And in this, woo, you can definitely see.
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely see the striped patterns right here, and right here at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very defined. I mean, again,
Yeah, it is definitely.
it is what it is, folks. We see this cover up. It's getting worse.
Yeah.
And worse and worse. And they don't want all of you to know what's happening out there.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing the beginning phases again of these false flags, the purging of social media, the cover up thickens. The earth is undergoing massive changes every tick of the clock. We see it happening. Over the course of the last 2 years, I've been talking about this, and I've been warning people about this. When I said, when they start infiltrating the social media networks and they start terminating accounts, terminating YouTube channels, terminating Facebook groups, terminating your Facebook page. Hell, my personal Facebook page is suspended for 30 days. All because I shared a Fox News report about CNN. Facebook suspended my personal account for 30 days because I shared a genuine news report. That is all that I did. They put me in Facebook jail for 30 days. But, there's ways around everything. They're not going to keep us from doing what we do. And surely not labeling something with a word, Mercury. Well, that may trick other people, but it's not going to trick me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure all of the troll videos will be uploaded within the hour after this live stream, calling me and Dr. Albers kooks and crazies and frauds and criminals and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, you're looking at the hardcore evidence right in front of your eyes, and all the debunkers are going to do is just try to twist your mind with some fancy words and some total BS.
Yes. Well, they only do that because we are speaking the truth, Scott. If we were saying a whole lot of nonsense, they wouldn't bother.
Yeah, Mercury looking really big, man. It even looks like it's producing some type of jets coming out right here, almost like a V pattern as it moves across the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
It's very interesting. It's clearly, you can actually see it's an object behind that bright spot. It's very, very clear. If you look at it carefully, you can see the outline of it. You can see the little features, the curvature of these stripes. It's actually amazing the kind of detail you can see on this image, Scott.
Yeah, I'm going to zoom in here. Here's your little Mercury, little teeny tiny little Mercury, compared to the massive sun.
Yes.
Yeah. There's your little tiny Mercury.
That's right. About the same size as the moon.
Yeah. Yeah. The moon's just a little bit smaller. But, ladies and gentlemen, that object that they have labeled as Mercury would show up as a minuscule little dot on your screen.
Yes.
What you're actually seeing is something larger than Jupiter.
Yes, it is, definitely.
I mean,
much larger.
Be realistic here. I mean, we're going by observations. And where's my video at? Oops. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and pull this up. And this is the actual SETI footage from December 20th. And it's showing Mercury zipping across the sky. This is what we just showed you. So, Dr. Albers, I mean, how close would Mercury come to this spacecraft?
Not close at all. Mercury cannot come either close to the sun or close to the spacecraft because it would have to retain the distance between Mercury and Earth. Mercury is the inner planet, and it's just Earth is quite far. I mean, Venus is between the two. I think it's about 40% of the distance between the sun and the Earth, Mercury's orbit.
So let's talk about this. At Mercury's furthest orbit, it's approximately 70 million miles at its furthest point from the sun in its elliptical orbit. We are 93 million miles away.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a distance at its closest point to the SETI spacecraft. We're talking about approximately 23 million miles. So
yes,
an object at 23 million miles that is less than 4,000 miles in diameter, how in the hell would we be able to see this object at this size? Now, take into consideration, the moon is slightly smaller than Mercury and approximately 238,000 miles from Earth. We can see it pretty good on all of these supermoons. Yeah. But that's only 238,000 miles, folks. What I'm talking about now is 23 million miles. So how in the hell could Mercury look like a gigantic planet or, a gigantic object in any of this footage? I mean, you would be looking at, just a little dot, regardless of how much zoom power the SETI cameras have.
Yes.
What, you're going to zoom 23 million miles?
Yeah, you see, if it was because Mercury was bright, then we could see a large object, but then the whole object would have to be bright. In this case, we see a bright spot enveloped in a circular outline, which is not that bright. And that circular outline actually shows us the size of the object. And I think what it is they are getting extremely careless with their CGI, Scott.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about it.
I am sure it's just carelessness that they, but I'm glad they are careless, Scott, because then we have evidence and more evidence. But I have shown since 2000 and since definitely last year, in the beginning of the year, and even in 2016, I was already finding they were mislabeling objects. They've been doing it for years.
Yeah, we've talked about this many times.
Yes. They usually stamp on Mercury and Venus on the object. If that doesn't quite fit, they may even use Pluto. Well, they maybe not Pluto, but they will use Jupiter. They will use Neptune if they have to, as long as it fits somehow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've had this, we've had this discussion before when we were seeing those plasma jets coming from what was supposed to be Venus. And since when does Venus produce these massive looping plasma jets?
That's right.
And, you had these idiots coming out there and saying, oh, those are nothing more than lens flares coming from the cameras, from the H1, blah, 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 blah. Never proving anything. Folks, it's real easy to sit there and be, an armchair, quarterback, but it's easy to spout words, and it's easy to try to trick all of you with fancy terminology. I don't try to do that. I bring it to you raw, and what we're looking at here, there's no way that anybody's going to be able to convince me that what we're seeing is Venus, ripping across the sky here.
No.
Excuse me, Mercury.
Mercury. It's definitely not one of the known planets in the solar system. And the thing is, they have been hiding the fact that these objects are here for many, many years. They are lying just about just about everything. They are lying about comets, about what comets are, what causes comets, because I've started to realize that comets and these objects are definitely related, and I'm starting to work this out, and I'm starting to write articles on this because I think it's very important. Comets are very important to understand in order for these objects and the way they are behaving in their interaction with the sun, in order to understand that. So I'm going to be writing about that in the very near future.
I'm going to slow this down just a...
And I found out that comets actually turn into planets. So this is the way planets are formed, that with every passage through the solar system, they gather more material. Eventually, they become spherical. The orbits become more and more circular until they turn into planets in the solar system. And the last one to be captured seems to have been Venus. That's why it's so hot still. It's a new planet in the solar system.
Now, right at the end, folks, whenever you watch it over here, you'll start to see the outer left portion of this object fade away. And the reason why is because it's moving further away from the sun, the same as the moon and the phases of the moon. So you're going to see that side of the planet fade to black because it's not getting any direct sunlight. Watch it very carefully. Watch this side, the left side. You'll see it fade away as it's moving. There it goes. Because it has no sunlight on that side. Same as the Earth, the same as the moon, the same as all of the other planets. As they rotate away from the sun, that one side of the planet or that object is the dark side, off to the left. I mean, I think it's some pretty amazing video footage.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely very, very interesting. Folks, you could all go to the SETI website. You can pull up the information for yourself, and you can check it out. We're going to go ahead and just dip back here. What's going on here now? Would they kick us out?
Mm.
Oh, here we go. We're going to slow this down. And you'll watch it again. You can see the outline. This is like kind of inverted, like a grayscale. And you could see the complete outline of that sphere as it moves across the sky.
Yes.
It will come back again and replay. And they labeled that, ladies and gentlemen, they labeled it Mercury.
And you know what? You could actually see there that there were two objects that seem to be moving with respect to each other. At least two objects there.
Exactly. You know, folks, so we wanted to share that with you because I think it's very, very vital information. Once again, proving that we've got some very, very serious issues out there in our inner solar system. A lot of people don't want to believe it. A lot of you are understanding it, and that's a good thing, because everything that is happening on this planet right now is directly attributed to what is happening in our inner solar system, what is happening with our sun, what is happening with our planet, what is happening with our weather systems, what is happening with the earthquakes, the volcanoes. It's all tied together. Excuse me. Dr. Albers, what are your final thoughts on all of this?
Well, Scott, it seems that we're getting more and more evidence for what's happening in the solar system. And as you know, these objects will affect our planet. Things are not getting any better. We have lots of things happening. I think they're doing their best to hide as much as possible from the population. They downplay the earthquakes, they downplay the volcanic eruptions, they downplay the weather. But we know that when we put everything together, that lots and lots of very scary things are happening to our planet, and it's not going to get any better. We can only expect things to get worse. The oceans keep warming up, the weather gets more severe, our ionosphere gets more and more affected by what's happening with the sun. So basically, we are in trouble. And what do we do when we are in trouble? Well, I believe that we should look to our spiritual lives, that we should connect with the Creator, that we should get to know Him and develop ourselves spiritually, because God is the source of everything that is created and that is good. We should go to the source. And this is our only hope in the end, because we have no surety of life or of a future without some spiritual help.
Absolutely. We're going to need all the help we can get.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, real quick. If any of you didn't catch my live stream about the purging of social media, take my advice. Stop sharing the information pertaining to what happened in South Florida, because the algorithms of Facebook They're tweaking them, and a lot more people are going to be losing Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts, and YouTube channels. That's a fact. That is a fact. They are taking down a lot of people worldwide. People are complaining about it. I've had several conversations with, other truthers and watchmen about what's occurring. They removed all of my posts off of my personal Facebook page and suspended it for 30 days. The Planet X News Facebook page, still up and running, folks. Make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you are following that Facebook page. Make sure you are subscribed to Dr. Albers' YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. And I think what we're going to be doing here in the very, very near future, we're going to be utilizing our Planet X News website. And let me zip over there real quick. We're going to be utilizing the Planet X News website a lot more in the upcoming future. And if something occurs on YouTube, because they're dropping channels left and right, folks, and they have every right to do it. They're all, they're private corporations, and they have their own rules and regulations. And if they say you broke the rules and you didn't, nothing you can do about it, folks. They are targeting people, and nothing we can do about it. Mm-hmm. We have to overcome what they're doing. We have to counter what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be looking into some live streaming platforms, and we may possibly be going to uploading our videos strictly to the Planet X News website, because the website belongs to me. I developed it. I pay for it. And nobody is going to tell me what I can put on my website. So, if any of you have not bookmarked this website, you better do it today. Bookmark the website. All of the links are in the description box under the video. www.planetxnews.org. We are listed as an organization, not a group, an organization. www.planetxnews.org. Bookmark that website. And folks, all of the information that goes up on the website every single day, it's of vital importance. This was an article and video that a gentleman who I watch on YouTube worked for the government for a long, long time. And, America under siege. Google purging the net. It's the beginning. Here was the article and information pertaining to the earthquake in Papua New Guinea. Here is some flooding, just absolutely horrible flooding up in the central part of the U.S. A lot of it coming from up in Michigan. They're definitely under, under the gun. This was a very interesting article. A small asteroid is Earth's constant companion. I don't know if any of you folks ever heard about asteroid 2016 HO3. This is a very interesting article. This big rock orbits our Earth and the sun.
Scott, it's not showing on the video what you showing.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, how rude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and someone had a question about how the sun, regarding the difference between how the sun is affecting our planet through these objects, and some people may expect some kind of impact or between the Earth and an object. So maybe you would like to address that.
What was that again? I'm sorry, I was busy
The
messing around with
difference
this
between
computer.
an actual crash between a planet, or an impact between a planet and our planet, and the effect of the stellar cores on our planet, the difference between that.
Well, you know, I mean, look, ladies and gentlemen, I know you see a lot of videos out there that they're on YouTube. There's a few idiots out there that are constantly putting these videos up about Nibiru crashing into the Earth, Planet X crashing into the Earth. Look, folks, that's not going to happen. Okay, that's just not going to happen. The sun has a pretty good hold on these objects. I don't think in our lifetime we will ever see any type of breakaway. I think the magnetic field of the sun has a hold of these objects. They are probably going to be a permanent fixture within our solar system, but they are going to create a lot of problems with our sun. In turn, that causes problems with our planet. We've gone over that a lot. And I do believe that the very strong magnetic field of this larger object is definitely interacting with the Earth's magnetic field at points. As we rotate and orbit around the sun, there are points in time that we probably get close enough to where this object's magnetic field interacts with the Earth's. That may be the reason why we are slightly tilting a little bit more than our normal 23.5 degrees. There will be people out there that will debate that to hell. They can do and say what they want. The fact of the matter is, look at the weather situation. Look at the jet streams. Look at the flooding. Look at the earthquakes. Look at the volcanoes. Look at what is happening to your planet. I've been preaching about this for 2 solid years. The story has not changed. The evidence is getting, well, it's piling up.
Yeah.
So getting back to the Planet X News website, again, bookmark this website, www.planetxnews.org, not .com. That .com takes you to some other website. We're an organization, planetxnews.org. The link is in the description box. Bookmark it. Put it on your desktop. Visit it once a day. Check it out on your cell phone. Vital information uploaded onto this website every day. And I'm going to be looking into ways where we're going to be able to live stream from this website. I'll put announcements up on Facebook and YouTube, but we may be in the very near future directly live streaming from this website, because I am sick and tired of being censored. I'm sick and tired of having to watch what I say. That gets me pretty heated.
Yeah.
But again, folks, a lot of articles up on this website every single day.
Yeah.
This was an article just a few days ago pertaining to the heavy flooding that was occurring, in the Midwest and different parts. Incredible video that was uploaded here. Rivers and dams and locks and spillways. It just, everything is just overflowing. And this was 3 days ago, and the flooding has actually gotten worse. So make sure you bookmark this site, folks. In the end, this may be all that we're left with. And we have to be prepared. We have to stay one step ahead. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. Well, Dr. Albers, what do you say we call it a night?
Yes, of course, Scott. We can do that.
Now, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here with us tonight. I'd like to thank our moderators, Tanis and Dawn. And if Chris was in there, thank you guys very, very much. You're a very, very big help. And folks, once again, pay very close attention to what's happening around you with your weather. Things can change in a heartbeat. I'll try to keep all of you informed as much as possible. All of the information will be up on the Planet X News Facebook page. If any of you are trying to contact me on my personal Facebook page via Messenger, I can't return your messages. The powers that be put me in Facebook jail. Naughty boy. I shared one news article. Just a way to try to shut me up. But within minutes, we circled around it, and I'm still there. Everything is still in operation. And in 27 days, I'm going to come back onto Facebook on my personal page, and I'm going to be like a tyrant. I don't care. Too much cover up. Too much information out there that is vital to each and every one of you. And remember, folks, just like I said, now it doesn't matter where you live. You can be subjected to a weather catastrophe instantaneously. It's happening in my neck of the woods. It's happening around the world. And we have to pay very, very close attention to it. We're going to be living in some very trying times in the upcoming months, the rest of this year. We will see what's in store for us. But we have to protect ourselves. And the power of information is under threat. Remember, knowledge is power. They want to take that knowledge away from you. Therefore, they will take away some of that power. We cannot let that happen. I don't care if I have to go to the deep, dark web to get my information out there, to get my words out there into your ears. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you share our videos with everybody. The news articles that come up on planetxnews.org, share them. You never know who is going to click on that article and read it. And you may save a life. And life is precious.
And Scott, can I just add something? We have to remember that they are fighting us because we are telling people the truth. And the thing is, when you fight for truth, you are on God's side, because Jesus said, I am the truth. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. God is truth. So when we stand for the truth, we are standing with and for God. And those who stand for lies are standing against God. They are making themselves God's enemy.
I agree 100%. You preach it, sister girl. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's been great being here with you. Sharing this information with you is what we're all about. Hey, listen, there may be points in time where we may be wrong. And that's okay. We have every single right to create a scientific theory and present it to whomever wants to listen. There are others out there that think that we don't have that right. So therefore, we are going to have a debate with some of these notorious, disgusting pukes that we call troll babies on YouTube, the ones that threaten and defame both me and Dr. Albers. And we're going to put them in their place. And we're going to do it live right here on YouTube on Planet X News. And we're going to wipe these people out because they think that their level of academics and education is enough to go head to head with a professional physicist, a doctor of physics. And these people have no education, no educational background. They're just troll babies. But you know what? I like to fight. And that's what we're going to do. I don't care if we have to make a spectacle of it. Dazza the cameraman, this is going to be your opportunity, buddy. And the other rejects across the pond over in the UK, you're going to get your chance. And we're going to plaster you. We're going to put you down like a rabid dog. Your days are coming. You will get that chance. And I know even after you get that chance, you won't shut up. Because you bring nothing to the table but lies. And you people are sick-minded psychos who do nothing but stalk me and Dr. Albers. You are stalkers, cyber stalkers. You're psychotic. Dazza the cameraman, this fruitcake over there in New Zealand, you know, he thinks he's pretty smart. But all he does every single day is think about me. He goes to bed thinking about me. He dreams about me. He makes videos about me every single day. The only thing that he could bring up is that Scott has a criminal record. Big deal. It's not like I'm some freaking bank robber or some rapist or some drug dealer. But we do have trolls that, you know, harass us that have been imprisoned as a notorious drug dealer and cocaine trafficker. Drunks, idiots, degenerates. It's all these people are. They don't bother me. I like fighting with them. Then we have this other sneaky troll baby over there in the UK. Goes by the name of Twiggy. Twiggy! She thinks she's so smart. She's nothing but a little troll baby blogger. And a couple other ones that harass people. That's all they do. But we're going to nail them down this time. We're going to go head to head. We'll make a spectacle of it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it. So there, you know, there is going to be this debate. We will do it live. And any of these troll babies that that want to, you know, that want to enter into this arena, you're more than welcome to. But you're going to come in to this arena and this debate, and you're going to mind your manners, and you're going to use your real name, not your little fake troll names. So you send me a request via email. The email address is in the description box. And when you come into this debate, you will use your real name. And we will know who you are. And your words will be heard. I'll give you the platform to speak your piece. But the first time you're disrespectful, the guillotine's coming down on you. and you'll be kicked right out of the debate. We'll do it as professionally as we can. We're not going to talk about people's past. We're going to talk about science and the evidence that's out there. If you can't stick to that criteria, don't bother emailing me. But Dazza the cameraman, I want you in that debate. And I know you have time because you don't have anything to do all day but hang on my nutsack like a cyber stalker. Ladies and gentlemen, it is what it is. I'll call them out. You know me. You know my personality. I'm not afraid of these people. I'll go head to head with them anytime, any day. That's just the bottom line. But listen, folks, all of you, be very safe out there. Keep track of your information related to your weather, and make sure that you are sharing all of this information as much as you can. You never know who's going to read it, and that may save a life. And that's what it's all about, because life is precious. This is Scott from Planet X News, Dr. Claudia Albers, our Planet X physicist. Thank you all for being with us. Have a great night and be safe. Take care.